Hey everyone, welcome to today's episode of Peaceful Growth Podcast. This is a very special episode where instead of interviewing a guest on my podcast, what I'm going to do is I'll play a clip and answer of one big question that I've been asking to all my past guests. So if you have been to listen to this podcast, you know that I've interviewed so many different entrepreneurs. A lot of them are specifically in the WordPress business, but some of them are not in WordPress and just in general has a digital or web agency. So the question that I've been asking them a lot was about how they get their first 10 or 100 customer in their business. This particular question and specifically the solution is very important for those who are just starting out their business because there are a lot of constraints. You don't have enough budget, you don't have enough resources, and also when we are starting out a new business and putting out a product, it's also very overwhelming to where to start. So this particular advice is very, very helpful for anyone who is starting a new product or business, and you will listen the answer from my guest about how they actually found their first 10 and 100 customer. I hope you enjoy it, and also let us know which particular advice that you like the most in the comment. Like, what was your strategy? What did you do in order to get your first 10 paid customers?
I spent a lot of time on Twitter.
Okay.
That was all I did. Twitter and post data Slack, I think, were the two places that I spent my time to get new customers. I think if you talk about what you're doing, if you build in public, and if you are earnest about it, and if you engage with people, talk to them, get to know their products, people actually want to help you. And so you're basically opening yourself up to be helped. And that's basically what I did.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What were you writing on Twitter? Was it more targeted to the WordPress community or publisher?
WordPress community. So that was one of the early mistakes, but I'm not sure I would call it a mistake. But at the time, I guess I didn't know better. I didn't know who my exact target audience was. So at the time I thought, okay, I need to target hardcore WordPress users and maybe like the influencers and get them to talk about the plugin rather than going straight to my audience directly. So the good and bad, the end result is that I got to know a lot of prominent people in the WordPress community. And that's been really great having being able to talk to plugin owners who are further along than me, and I can ask them questions.
Yeah.
And they can give me really great advice. But obviously they're not users. So yeah, on one hand, I now have like really great connections, but on the other hand, maybe it would have been better to talk directly to publishers, and then I would have been able to get more customers that way.
Right. How did you get your first 10 customers? So it's always very like those first 10 customers, that is where the lot of creativity and innovation is there, especially for the new startup. So would you mind sharing some of your initial marketing strategies or to acquire your first 10 customers?
Yeah, so there were two things that we did to get our first 10, and I remember them very distinctly. The first was we used our status as UT students to get free articles published. And that was very helpful because we didn't actually know what people responded to because we were just launching. So we didn't know what key phrases to use. We didn't know what value they would actually derive. Would they actually care about the fact that the cars are Teslas, or would that make them more concerned about our service's ability to get them to their end destination? Would they like the productivity, or was it all about cost? So we did those free articles, and we tweaked each message for each article till we found the article that performed the best. And that was awesome. And the other thing we did, this is way left field, and it was successful in that it got us our few first core clients. So number one, we booked the cheapest ticket out of IH, and we would go to the airport gate for Houston to Austin and hand out flyers to the passengers that had like Lenovo ThinkPads because we knew that they would probably be business travelers. And so
Okay.
that helped us get, yeah, that helped us get two of our biggest current customers, and they're still with us today. And they signed up their companies, which then had a bunch of ongoing employees join as well because they love the service, right? And we give United miles, so employees love that for booking electrics. And so those were the two, and it was crazy. I still remember it. I had an Amex Platinum card, so I would actually I would book a later flight. And back then, they didn't have the same restrictions they do now. So you could go in and out as many times as you wanted to the lounge. So I would go first thing in the morning, eat breakfast, then go to like the gate and start selling, then go and eat lunch and then start selling, then go back for dinner and get the last few flights. And so yeah, that's how we did it.
How did you get your first, let's say, 10 customers in your business?
Well, I guess we didn't follow any exact rocket science. We followed the same which all the beginners, entrepreneurs follow. That we started our business with at least that to work on a bigger customers and enterprise level projects. We started, the journey was begin with initial freelancing portals. Okay, that was our core source. So like how we started our business over there. Of course, we started working only on the type at the beginning, but we focus on more that how we get the business on that. Freelancing is the side. Couple of things we started working on. LinkedIn business is that we have to accept the fact that the type of the community and the projects, the requirement is very small. Okay, it's very more limited to Germany or like mostly to the speaking areas, and there is a very small pie, and we have to take our pie. Okay, so in the case, I have to be very sure that how I can attract more customers. Okay, and in the beginning, our target was never been to reach to end customers. It's always been the digital agency we have been targeting. Okay, because we try and focus at how we can be helpful developers, how we can provide the manpowers here that the digital agencies from Germany or anyone is looking for. That's something I believe instead of finding the end customers, better to be at the beginning said better to be depend on the freelancing portals or use the networks. Whatever you build on the social media or maybe on the LinkedIn platforms or somewhere, that's where at least you have to be begin on that. And initial phase, the most important thing is that don't look for the money. That's supposed to become at the end, maybe after a couple of years. At least for the now, you more focus on building your customer there, more build up of the brand values, create more quality, more productivity. That's what the customer is looking for whenever you're at the beginning stage. The money, the last of things will be follow after a couple of years. But that's you have to struggle a lot at the beginning stage. That's a fact.
I want to add one point. It's really important, interesting for some of the people. Actually, when you say, okay, we are this and that, it doesn't work at the starting. We know very well, right? So at the starting of our career, I choose the Typo 3 and try to make a personal brand. Like if you are contributing to something, people will know you. You can't say, okay, I have completed these 10 projects. It's not possible, right, at the starting of it. But you can say, like, I have contributed to this extension, for example, or I have contributed to this core page, right? So people start noticing you that, okay, even if you are in the starting phase, but you have the potentiality, right? People try to approach you. Let's start with some basics or some initial small project, right? So that was that was one point about the personal branding. Once you use your personal branding, it will help to your company's profile, right?
What was your strategy or story or journey to get your first 10 clients for the Beaver Builder in the early stage?
We kind of cheated, I guess, if I'm honest. So maybe not cheated, but it was real easy to get our first 10 because we were doing website projects for our clients. And Beaver Builder started out as an internal project. And so we were using it on our own client websites. And then from there, we started neither myself or my two business partners really had any background or experience in traditional marketing or online marketing. So we kind of learned as we went. I did a lot of reaching. I was the one who eventually kind of took over that role and tried to specialize in in marketing. But we reached out to a lot of like influencers and bloggers and people who are writing about WordPress to try to get them to, write a blog post about Beaver Builder. I remember emailing like, WP Tavern, and Chris Lemo was a big, he's still a very popular blogger. He used to do, at the time, was doing a daily blog, and it was one of the, kind of top reads in the space, at least if you were trying to do a business in WordPress. And that had some success, but there was like a lot of like, it felt spammy, and like, you'd send those like kind of boilerplate emails, you copy and paste it in, and then you change like the first paragraph to say like, hey, I read your blog, I saw your article on this and that, and then you have like the copy paste, like, I'm Robbie, I have this piece of software called Beaver Builder, and it like, I don't know, it worked, but it didn't work like, it wasn't great. Like, we never got that WP Tavern article. And I think Chris eventually wrote an article about us, but it wasn't until people started using Beaver Builder and then kind of evangelizing it for us. So some of our probably early customers really loved the product, and a few of them were, very involved in the WordPress community, both online and in person. And would go out and like leave comments and say, hey, like, have you tried this yet? Like, this is a much better solution. Or it was kind of like a word of mouth marketing sort of snowball that generated that really helped us out in the early days.
So out of all the different strategies that you tried to promote your Beaver Builder and get more distribution, what are the 2 or 3 that you think like has been very effective in the past, but are still effective as of today?
Yeah, it's changed a bit. We did. So one of our now employees used to work for a marketing agency that specialized in Google ads. And there's like, there's like a lot of marketing agencies that do Google ads, and there's a whole kind of spectrum of like, there's the guys that are just kind of guys and gals that like aren't that great, or that are just kind of like dime a dozen. But the shop he was working for at the time, and still to this day, like they were real deal, like highly educated data geeks, and they really knew the Google algorithm and the ad algorithm inside and out. And so we did a lot of online advertising with them, and there was an era there where it worked extremely well. This was also around the time when Facebook was coming out with this idea of like a lookalike audience. So you could take your email list and upload it to Facebook, and Facebook would, associate those emails with profiles. This was all kind of done anonymously, but what it would do is come up with like a user persona based on your existing customers or your existing newsletter list, and then it would like highly target ads at people that they thought were like a lookalike, like a similar, demographic, experience, education level, employment, and things like that. There's been a lot of changes around privacy in advertising and online data tracking now. So we found that it's like not quite as effective as there was like kind of those golden years when online ads were really, really like cheap and effective. And they're still effective, just not quite as effective, and they're not quite cheap anymore. It's like but yeah, we still do a lot of advertising and experimentation, trying to find new platforms and places to get our name out there. One thing that I guess was interesting is when we started, we didn't do a whole lot of just traditional content marketing on our blog. We would write an update post kind of every couple months, sharing like what was going on internally with the product and with our team, and just kind of putting our personalities out there and sharing our experience. But we didn't do a whole lot of like, how to set up a landing page on WordPress, or how to redirect URLs, like just kind of general tutorial content on our blog. But then at a certain point, we realized that we'd been around for long enough. We have like again, this was like this worked back in the day. I don't know if I'd recommend doing this now. Google's gotten a lot more advanced, but we have a theme, and in our theme, when you installed it, in the default footer, there was a link back to Beaver Builder, kind of similar like WordPress did this back in the day. When you installed WordPress, there'd be a link back in the footer, and eventually all those link backs gave us like a pretty decent domain rank, and we realized that we had like good domain rank, and we were ranking for terms that like if we were to invest time and money into creating content, it was going to pay off a lot more because we were actually able to rank on some of the more competitive terms around WordPress.
What tips or advice would you share for getting the first 100 customer for a product business?
My experience was to basically throw a lot of spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks. So do everything, try paid ads, do content, do affiliate program, do joint venture marketing with other companies, but also do a strong ground game, meaning a lot of tech or online entrepreneurs, they want to like do it behind the website and just do the tech, but actually getting out of the building and talking to customers or prospects, going out into the community, conferences, WordCamps, whatever, is really important.
Yeah.
And also, you really have to learn marketing. I find some entrepreneurs are really heavy on the engineering or tech side, and some are really heavy on the marketing side, but you have to have both at a high level. And whether you do that through partnership, which is what I did, or you do it, you're one of those unicorns who really developed both skills. Like I know product founders that are good at both marketing and building the product. So there's not just one way to do it, and also you have to pre-sell. So, especially in the early days, we did a lot of selling products with a future launch date at a discount to both get revenue, but also get a test of demand. So pre-selling is super important, and building anticipation and talking about what you're building next, because building a product is not just the code, it's also the relationship and your vision for the future that people buy into.
Yeah.
And my other piece of advice is, if you haven't selected a product yet, is to have a core customer, not necessarily a tech that you're excited about, but if you can, build a platform level product that is sort of becomes the backbone of that core customer's business and hopes and dreams. So we do both in the sense that we provide an all-in-one solution for online learning, but at the same time, we also work very hard to integrate with other tools in the WordPress ecosystem and, be a good citizen in the community of software tools that our core customer uses.
How to get your first 1,000 customers, because that's kind of like a very hard part. So do you have any advice or tips that you want to share there?
Yes, well, something which I actually heard personally from a very successful entrepreneur in Israel before I started this business, and that was that there's luck. Luck goes around. And the difference between good entrepreneurs and less successful entrepreneurs is they notice when chance is going by them, is approaching them, and they pay attention and they capitalize on it. They make the most of it, because almost everyone has some sort of interaction with luck. But many people, they're either not in a position, or they just don't think that they need to act on it. And I think I took his advice actually seriously, and I try to be very aware of what's going on around me and notice when there's a risk that we should avoid, and when we have an opportunity which we need to grab. These opportunities, they come and they go. And if you don't act on them on time, they will go. And this element of luck is essential, in my opinion, because there are things that are completely outside of our control, always. They can be for good and for bad, but they are outside of our control. And we can't predict them, we can't make them happen, we can't force them, but we can be aware of them. At least we can be aware of them and do something. So our great moment of luck with WPML was when we got accidentally kicked out of the WordPress repository.
Oh,
My advice to entrepreneurs is not to get kicked out of the WordPress repository. That's not an advice that I have. Go get kicked out.
yeah.
Okay, that is not an advice to write down now. But it happened to us in a weird time, and we realized that we could do something good with that. Because what happened was that we accidentally, without intending, we violated one of the regulations of the WordPress repository. At the time, it was our fault. Okay, it was nobody else's fault. But the result of this is that we got suspended. And then what we've noticed immediately after our suspension started is that we have people, WP was free at the time. We have people finding our website and asking us, can we get it from you? Instead of from the WordPress repository. So it's kind of a light bulb came up and said,
your first 100 customer, that's kind of like one area where they want to learn from the other entrepreneurs like you and me. So that's my question, that if there is anything that you can share in order to gain your first 100 customers, what did you do and what worked?
I'll storytell a little bit of what strategies we did, what we tried, what failed, what we enjoyed. So we entered a market in 2011, the plugin went in the WordPress.org repository. There was S2 Member. That was the other competing membership product in that space. We did fully open source. We did all of our payment gateways with the recurring subscription pieces within the core product, which was new. A lot of people were modularizing and moving components like that into like a paid extension. But we were like, there's already one person doing this. How can we compete in that space? So we thought, like, let's be feature complete. Let's fully embrace open source. Let's be as open as possible. And we're not going to give someone a plugin that does like 95% of what they need and force them to pay. That creates, a bad conversation with the customer. Like, I want to get paid. You're called Paid Memberships Pro. I have to pay for this extension to do gateway stuff. So we wanted the core product to be functional and complete. So I think when you're deciding what features are premium and not, you can create artificial walls just because you think that's what people are going to pay for. But if growth and user base is your goal, which it's always been for us, our goal is to become the most used membership platform for WordPress. And to reach that goal, we have to consider our free users as importantly as our paid customers. So being feature complete was something that really helped us. And also early on, we did a lot of like what people call now build in public. Like we did it to the nth degree. Lots of content marketing, lots of blogging, what we were doing, sharing that all on our website, paidmembershipspro.com. We also put our documentation behind a free user sign up. So we use our own plugin to gate content on our website, and we use it to sell our subscription. So that was a trick to help us not only grow as user base was growing. We had a great product. It was free in .org. We also were able to grow an email list alongside that, which is key if you're trying to grow customers. You don't have access to the people using your WordPress product. It could, 90,000 sites. I don't have 90,000 people that check my email or communicate with me or even have an account on our site. But by having that free gate behind documentation, we created a reason people had to give us an email address more than just, don't you want our marketing content? Sign up. Don't you want this lead magnet? Sign up. And very little pushback, which when business owners hear that, they think, are your customers going to be so mad that they have to exchange an email address? A number of people I can count on two hands have complained in 13 years of doing that they needed to create an account, because I think people are used to that.
Right.
You're using a completely free product, sign up. So growing that email list gave us a path of people to send marketing content to pitch our offers to send deals.
Yeah, what advice would you give now if somebody wants to grow from 0 to 100?
Right. And I think general product advice, or I think to a lot of products, I would just say that the thing that I would do today is figure out first of all, figure out the problem you're solving. And sometimes that itself takes years to understand. For us also, the actual problem we are solving took years to understand. We knew that we're doing backups, but why are we doing backups? Why are people using backups? Took years to understand that. But whatever your hypothesis is, follow that hypothesis and figure out. I think the first 10 or first 100 customers is you should just figure out who are the people who are facing the problem that you're solving, and how do you just get in front of them through search. I think that applies to a vast majority of products that get created today, because search is so omnipresent. It's there everywhere. Everyone uses search, and people, when they have a problem, they search for it.
Yeah.
So, and get in front of them one way or the other, in some way. In fact, that's the one thing. So I'm not talking about SEO. I'm not talking about anything. In fact, if I were to do it today, and if someone had given me the task that get your first 100 customers, or first 100 users, then while you invest in SEO, eventually the real way you do it is just even paid ads, anything. The ROI might not be there, but if you have the money to invest there, or if you have, first 100 should not take an insane amount of money for a simple product, and again, I'm assuming you have a fairly simple product to start with. Eventually, you might have a complex product, but in that case, which is that use case that you can solve well and get in front of customers? And what are they searching for? Think of what exactly happened in their life that led them to searching for the problem. For example, and something that we did slightly later than what we should have done, but the simplest thing, for us, could be: are people searching for the words WordPress backups?
Okay.
That's a problem. Now, how do you make sure? How do you get in front of that audience who is searching for WordPress backup? That is your only goal,
right?
And it might mean if there's an existing article or listicle which is there, how do you get into that listicle? Can you run an ad? What can you do to get yourself that first 10 or first 100? Don't think about the first 1,000. Actually, the first goal should be, how do I get the first 10? First 10 valid, real users who have that problem. So once you get this 10, then you expand to how do I get to the next 100? And that helps you expand the base a bit. But that's the strategy I would follow to get in front of, in a very, for the first 0 to 10 or 0 to 100 customer base. After that, what you do might be a completely different process, because scaling marketing is a different challenge altogether.
Yeah.
But getting that first 100 customers to validate your idea, to continuously use your product and give you that feedback, I still believe search is the most important channel. And unless you are doing some enterprise level product where the sales cycle is much, much, much longer.
Right.
Apart from that, search, even if you're building mobile app, search is the most important thing. But search is, you have to use search for the first 100.
What are the things that you would do to get your first 10 customer? Then we'll talk about 100 customer, and then we'll talk about 1,000 customers. So kind of like just talking about these 3 different customer groups.
Yeah, I think so. In terms of your first customer, first of all, you want to make sure your product is ready. That means it's debugged, as much as you possibly can. That you've got all the key functionality you want in there to be a viable and usable and helpful product to people. You've got to go way back to the beginning. Make sure the idea of what you're building is something that people are going to need. But assuming you've got that wrapped up, before you launch, just make sure that everything is in place and working well. There's nothing worse than launching something and then people start writing negative reviews because there are bugs, etc., etc. So for us, being a plugin company, we felt that having a free version of our plugin would help the community, but B, also be a sales channel for us because we can get people to upgrade from that. So, we did a lot of stuff to be very conscientious about how people use plugins, and they don't want loads of notifications coming up saying upgrade, upgrade, upgrade. We try to keep the light version quite slim and easy to use and not intrusive. I feel nowadays people are very, very touchy about what the plugin is doing to their admin. Is it taking it over? And even those types of things can result in negative reviews. So your reviews on that free version, if you're going to do a free version, I think are critical and very much reflect on the type of company that you are. Even though you're giving away a free product, you've still got to give those people good support. So when you go live, you also want to make sure that all your documentation is in place. There's always a tendency to launch it and then write the documentation afterwards. Documentation takes a huge amount of time. It's, I basically run a support business now, as well as improving the product, but it's essentially support that we're doing day in, day out. We wait
because you're giving out the code and the plugin for like open source, like free, So the support is something that you are basically charging for, right?
Yeah. There's a lot of plugins out there you can install to help you build a knowledge base or support system. We've actually just started playing with DocSpot, which is an AI platform for help. So we're trialing that. Anything we can do to help users out. So in order to get that first customer, obviously you've got to shout about it. You've got to tell people about that plugin. So there are a number of different channels that you can use for that. Now, when you launch a product in the plugin directory, obviously it's going to pop up. People are going to find it in terms of searching for it. So you've got to make sure that your keywords are correct in your plugin, and that your documentation on the plugin itself is clean and easy to read and understandable, so people actually want to install it. That's one way of getting installs. You'll start to get installs pretty much immediately, but because you don't have a million installs already, it takes time. There are people that have been in that plugin directory for a long, long time, and they've got huge amounts of installs, and those tend to get the higher rankings. So you can't rely on just adding it to the plugin directory on its own. There's a lot of other stuff that you need to do. That's where the community comes in, I believe. So, on Post Status, you can announce your plugin. You can reach out to content developers out there. So there are loads of big names in the WordPress space that produce weekly content for WordPress. Reach out to them. Now, they may not get back to you straight away. These people are inundated with requests from people saying, hey, can you do a video about my product? And they've probably got 6 to 12 months out of content that they're already producing. But just getting yourself known and meeting other people, and sometimes you'll talk to another plugin developer who will have an existing relationship with one of those content people who can recommend your product to them. So a lot of the times it's word of mouth coming from other people. So getting involved in the community as much as you possibly can, getting your name out there. So what do? We sponsor WordCamps, and that gets our logo on there. People see it. We get involved with a lot of people at these events, and that has helped to get the name out there as well.
I would ask like process or strategy to get your first 10 customers, because I think that's where, it's kind of like an MVP. Like, once you can sell to 10 people, then you have a confidence stage. You have a confidence in the product, and you feel like, okay, So how did you get your first 10 clients?
So the transition was first to WordPress. So we became I'm in New Hampshire, in a small area of New Hampshire. We kind of became known as the WordPress experts in our region.
Okay.
And from that, when we got into issue publishing, we attracted a lot of schools. They don't need subscriptions. Like you pay a subscription. They needed something else. But our network expanded, and we did start to see other publishers that were in the general magazine space, who said, hey, we need a metered paywall, and we see you have this issue system. And so the issue M was on the repo first, actually, which started, we got to 1,000 installations on issue M, pretty quickly, and that gave us some exposure for leaky paywall. So that was like one plugin to another.
Okay.
So we really the WordPress repository was the turbocharge, right? That was developers coming in saying, "Hey, I'm working on this project for this publisher. This looks pretty interesting. Can you tell me more about it?" And so, we started talking to developers, and they started picking it up, and it was cheap. I mean, really, it was like like with any startup, right? You start with your price down here, you just bring in people, and I totally recommend giving away for free or selling something really cheap just to get the experience. So you know what the needs are of that customer, and then you can build your marketing around those needs. So we went from, and one of the big changes for us is as we started acquiring, and we were doing the agency work simultaneously at this phase. Like you need to fund this. So you need to do that work. So we're like, yeah, we'll build your meter paywall. We'll quote you for a project. And they hired us because we were the experts with our own software, which makes sense. And we had already started talking about, I was already helping publishers succeed with marketing their content and their subscriptions because of previous work, in the digital marketing space all the way back to, 98 essentially. And that really resonated. I didn't know how much it resonated with publishers until today. I mean like current times essentially.
Yeah.
So our first, we had a customer come back, first time buyer, $295 for the whole suite, plugin suite.
Okay.
Per year was what we charged, right? Which is kind of a typical WordPress price point, right?
Right.
You buy a bundle, it's $300 for the year, whatever. And we were doing the agency work and we were selling at that price level for a while. And then I can't remember when, but we got to a point where it's like, we know we're offering a ton of value to publishers who are making money on subscriptions, but we're not paying ourselves enough to survive, to survive, right? So basically the question came up as like, how can we charge a monthly recurring fee and be able to deliver value to our customers, right? So switching from $295 a year, we launched $125 a month.
What worked to acquire the first 100 customers?
Poor business practices. So let me explain a little bit. When we started, we didn't know the WordPress ecosystem, and to be honest, we weren't extremely savvy business people. I had a little bit of, I had a lot of leadership experience, but not necessarily in a business sector. And so when we came into the space, we made a lot of dumb decisions. We competed on price. We didn't back then, it was early on in the stage, subscriptions weren't the norm. And so people were buying one-offs. So I think originally we started selling Ninja Forms for $19, all in, one-time fee, never pay again. That is not, obviously you cannot sustain a business on a pricing model like that. But what happened was it got a lot of attention because, okay, let's at least look at what they're doing and see why they're doing it that way. And then we increased our price to $29. Then we switched over to the add-on model. And so we made a lot of changes over times to finally find our market fit that was actually sustainable and could work. But in the early days of that, and which is very different than today, by the way, it's a lot harder to, I believe, it's a lot harder to launch a new WordPress product today than it was in 2011. In 2011, you had a community, WordPress was a different community. And I'm not trying to dog on WordPress. I still love, most of the people in the WordPress community are amazing people and I still love them to death. But I will say there's a different energy in WordPress today than there was in 2011. In 2011, if you were a decent human being who cared about other people and were trying to do something good, people would give you attention. They would just try it out and say, hey, I don't necessarily use this, but you should definitely check it out and you should try it out. And Ninja Forms certainly benefited from that really nice community of support and collaboration. And why not just take a look. So we built relationships with people who were like us, who are kind, who are generous, who just wanted to be good. And that helped us grow just through word of mouth without a really strong marketing engine. Now, we did some things on accident that really worked out well. Like when we launched 3.0, we had a really good marketing campaign that worked really, it was solid, even though we took a lot longer to launch our 3.0 than we wanted, which, by the way, is like the curse of the 3.0. Everybody takes a lot longer than they want to launch it. And so we had some good campaigns that were really helpful, but honestly, it was the community of that time made it easier for us as a product. And I hate to say that because it's like, I always talk about luck. Like sometimes you just get lucky, and we got lucky to be in the right place at the right time with the right people, and we stuck at it and benefited from it. But it took us a year and a half to find that. Like it was a year and a half of toiling. We didn't make any real money until 2013 is when we started to actually see growth. So a year and a half of just like having this product out there making nothing, but still trying. But the community was great, so we stuck with it.
Yeah, what are the strategies and strategies that you use in order to get your first 100 customer with InstaWP?
Yeah, so the strategy, which, as I said, I'm not much of a marketer, but what I have seen that a couple of things which have worked is obviously being active on social platforms. So such as you can like join multiple Slack groups, Facebook groups, Twitter, now X, and maybe LinkedIn. LinkedIn, not so much, right? I'm not that active, but especially Twitter, right? Because that helped us a lot in the beginning. And then individual, first of all, right, the product needs to be really well done, right? It needs to solve something so that when you tell someone about it, people automatically get attracted to it. And then second thing is it should be easy to use, which was also perfect for us because the first iteration, you just can click on a button and then get a WordPress site. Right now, you need to actually register an account with us. And the other approach, I think, which it was mostly word of mouth in the beginning when people started sharing our stuff. And we launched it on, like, let's say, Product Hunt. And then I also tried to email our existing customers in ExpressTag because I had an audience there.
Okay guys, so thank you for watching. Now if you are interested and would like to try this out for yourself, we offer a 30-day free trial of our Pro plan where you can test all the multi-collab features. So for this, all you have to do is click on the link in the description below, and this will bring you to this page, and under the Pro heading, simply click on this button here. Now simply enter a few details and that's it. You're ready to enjoy the Pro version of multi-collab for free for 30 days. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.